Welcome back to the Tour Today show. My name is Steve Fleck. Every day there's racing at the Tour. We will talk about the highs and the lows, the thrills and the spills, the tragedies and the triumphs at the Tour, aka La Grande Boucle. On each episode of the Tour Today, I will have a special guest on the show with me. Today, I'm very pleased to have with me the web editor for Canadian Cycling Magazine, Lily Hansen-Gillis. Welcome, Lily.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about all the Tour with you.
And it has been an exciting tour. We're really finishing, if this is a sort of a 3-act play or a 3-chapter book, with the rest day coming up, tomorrow, this is really the end of the first act of the first chapter. So there's lots to talk about. We'll get to that in a moment. Just wanted to thank all the viewers who have tuned into the Tour today to watch us. Please, if you do have any questions for me or for my guests or what's coming up, stuff you want us to talk about, you can message me or send a direct tweet to @Steve Fleck. And Lily, where could people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at LilyHG.
Sorry, say again?
LilyHG.
Awesome. Okay. And of course, Canadian Cycling Magazine has their own social media site. And as the web editor, I'm sure you're well in control of a lot that goes on there. Just check out Canadian Cycling Magazine in Google and you'll get to all their sites. Well, let's talk a bit about Stage 9, Lily, that just concluded today. It was another wild and woolly one. And as I said, a great way to conclude Act 1. Second day, in the Pyrenees. It was a 154-kilometer run from Pau to Lorans. They went over the Col de la Haute-Sierre, the Col de Saudet, and then the Col de Marie Blanc, which is not one of the super high mountains, but is a very famous one in past Tour de France history. They finished up with that and then a downhill run into Lorans. What was your feeling, Lily, on what turned out to be a very eventful stage? The weather was foggy, raining, wet, and a bit treacherous on some of those higher mountain passes, but finished on dry roads in Lorans.
I mean, honestly, it was quite exciting. I was on the edge of my seat for a lot of it, just watching. It was Hershey that really took the stage. He didn't take the stage, but he took the attention. And watching him just break like that and hold it for almost the entire thing, it was really cool to see. And I think just like that dynamic, like there's 3 climbs, watching these really get into the climbing bit of the actual race was really exciting, kind of spiced things up quite a bit. And there was one point where like it was rainy and their Jumbo Visma is on the front and they're all in their jackets looking really intense, just controlling things. It just really felt like a real tour stage, It had everything.
It did indeed. It had a bit of everything. You mentioned Mark Hershey. Didn't win the stage. Unfortunately, finished third. But he wasn't that heartbreak at the finish. Oh my God! I mean,
everyone was cheering for him. Like
everyone was.
Yeah.
He was doing everything, pulling all his fitness, all the tricks out of the book, and still couldn't get the wheel across the finish line first. But he probably will get the red bib number as the most combative rider on the stage. He'll get to wear that tomorrow. We'll get to those special prizings a little bit later on in the show. But Hershey was the story of the stage, went away almost right away, gained a huge amount of points in the polka dot jersey category, moved up I think into 3rd spot in that category. But he was away pretty much solo from the get-go, just driving it over each of those massive mountains, and then just lost it at the finish line to Primož Roglič and Tadej Pogačar in Lorans at the line. That was heartbreak for sure.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was a well-raced race for the other two. You got the Slovenians really did a great job as well, but I think everyone watching that was just really hoping that he could get that win because he put in so much work, and he's only 22. Like,
yes,
that's he has a long career in front of him.
Yeah, only 22. Pogačar's only 21. I'm going to get to that. Those are going to be some of my highlights of Act 1, so I won't give it all away. A little bit of drama at the top of the Col de Marie Blanc. Primož Roglic, I don't think he was aware that Pogačar was right behind him. Pogačar kind of glanced back. There was a touch of wheels. Pogačar almost went down. But true sportsmen, they knew what had happened. It had been sort of an honest mistake by Primož Roglic, and I saw them shaking hands just after the summit. So,
right after. It was really like all okay, but it was so impressive that he stayed up when he did that, because anyone who's done that before, how hard it is to keep your bike up when you hit a wheel like that. It's just, you splash over to the other side, But I was impressed with how they both stayed up, actually.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, it's almost automatic that the trailing rider goes down. The rider in front, when there is that touch of wheels, it's the trailing rider that almost typically goes down. So great bike handling skills from Tadej Pogačar to stay upright. Though really showcase some of those Pyrenean roads. It's a long story, but I happened to be on some of those roads last year, and you have to be there to see how narrow these roads are. They're paved roads, but they're literally one car width wide. There's no guardrails. There's steep drops off the edge. As you had mentioned, Lily, it was foggy, it was wet, the roads were slick and slippery. It's amazing that there weren't very many crashes in the race. Everyone managed to stay upright, but these are treacherous roads to ride at the speeds they're going on.
Yeah, and it's, watching, especially like Hershey, like the camera was on him for a long time, the way he was descending on some of those roads, it was, there's this YouTuber called Safa Brian that just does descent videos that are quite popular, and I watch them, but, the whole time I'm grabbing the edge of the table, just stressed out, and that was kind of the vibe I was getting from that. It was really, taking those turns as tightly as possible, and but everyone stayed up though, which was quite impressive, I think.
Yeah, just simply amazing. So just to sum up, top three on the stage. Tadej Pogačar did take the win, the young Slovenian rider for UAE Team Emirates. Primož Roglic from Team Jumbo-Visma was in second, and as we mentioned, Mark Hershey was in third. Also in that group, Egan Bernal and Mikel Landa were in that group. That they were away. There was some gaps forming that did create some changes in the top 10 of the yellow jersey. Of course, the big news is Adam Yates lost the yellow jersey today. He drops back down to 8th spot for Yates, who was in yellow for a few days. Primož Roglic will take over the yellow jersey after the rest day. He'll be wearing it on Tuesday. Bernal, the defending champion, is in second. Guillaume Martin, a bit of a surprise. The Frenchman doing very well, still sitting in third. Romain Bardet, on account of an aggressive run into the finish yesterday, sits in fourth. Nairo Quintana, who's been looking great, Lily, is currently in fifth. And there are 10 riders who are all within a minute of the lead. So I'd say that's, any of those top 10, it's anyone's race at this point. Yeah,
they still have quite a few stages to switch it up, put another person up at the top there.
Yeah. So let's just sum up the jersey situation before moving on. Nothing changed in the green, particularly in a mountain stage like this. Peter Sagan still in the lead there, but getting some stiff competition from Sam Bennett and Wout van Aert on account of 2 stage wins and a couple of intermediary sprints is in third. I'm expecting or predicting that Van Aert might get a little interested in that green jersey as we wind our way towards Paris.
There, he's moving up. So, couple more stages like the last few, and we'll see. I know
he's been a valuable sort of domestique for the team leaders, in this case Primož Roglic for Jumbo-Visma, but I would think that he's close on the green jersey, and he is a true all-rounder, and I think he is kind of Peter Sagan's heir apparent, wouldn't you say, in that
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
Having that all around, they both have a bit of that. Sagan a little bit less, but he has that mountain biking background as well. Yep. They have like a similar sort of vibe. But Van Aert is just, I don't know, I'm so excited to see what he does in the next few years, because he is just blowing everything up in every sort of category, So impressive.
Again, he's one of my my stories of the opening chapter. We'll get to that momentarily. White jersey, Egan Burnell, still in white, the defending champion. Taj Pogacar in second, and Enric Mas from the Movistar team in third. Now, this is a competition, the KOM, Lily, that's starting to heat up a little bit. Benoit Cosnefoy, the young rider from AG2R, has kind of ruled it for the first week here. But edging into the picture for on points is Nance Peters, the winner of the stage yesterday. And then on account of a great ride today and gathering up and soaking up all the KOM points, the maximum points on the ride today to Laurent, is Mark Hershey. He's sitting in third. So it's 36 points, 21, and then 26 for Hershey in third. So that could get interesting when they head back into the bigger climbs, later on. All right, let's shift to the next stage, Lily. It's going to be stage 10, and I think this is the flattest stage in the whole tour. I think
so flat.
I think there's only it looks like a billiard table. I'm looking at the profile right now, and it is completely flat. So now I would say it's one for the sprinters, but two things: it's completely exposed on the Atlantic coastline. Winds could be a factor. We saw in stage 7 where both Bora Hansborough and Team Ineos really started to drill it. That was a stage we said, it's going to be all about the sprinters. And that turned up to be, completely upside down. So anything could happen, on this 170-kilometer run that they'll make along the Atlantic coastline on Tuesday after the rest day. What do you think?
I think it'll be interesting to see, a few people were saying that there's going to be some crosswinds, possibly, if there are crosswinds, which, obviously I don't want the riders to suffer, but it would be quite interesting because that'll break up the group quite a bit. So really it's going to be a lot about strategy, I think. And placement is going to be a major factor. Because if you're not in that group, that near the front, when it breaks off and they start going into echelons, you lose so much time like that. So yes. I think it's going to be interesting for the GC contenders for sure, putting themselves right there where they need to be.
It won't be the terrain, it will be the riders, and the riders really make the race. So they will have to be aware of things, make sure that they're with teammates, making sure that if splits form, they are in the right echelon at the right time and in the right point, sort of in the bunch. So as I mentioned, we're done the first chapter, the first act. But before we move on to a bit of a conversation like that, it's something I wanted to do earlier because I've had some questions from people within my circle of friends. What are the jerseys all about? What are these jerseys that they're sort of competing for? Because these are particularly the non-yellow jerseys are the races within the race that we're all sort of following. So, I mean, the yellow jersey is pretty easy. It's the lowest accumulative time, like over the course, of the 3 weeks of racing. So that's usually the winner, of the tour. Not usually, it is the winner of the tour. Yeah, they get to wear the yellow jersey. And then the green jersey, what's it all about?
So the green jersey is the sprinter's jersey. So that's actually like the points. Periodically, every stage there will be at least one sprint section. So that'll be just going to, there'll be a little arch to indicate it, but they will indicate that it's coming up. And these were kind of put in, I think it was in the 50s, just to spice things up a little bit, especially on these flatter stages, because, as a viewer, as a cyclist as well, participating in the tour, there aren't as many opportunities for the sprinters. So every time that they reach like a little sprint section, there are points allotted to the first across, and I think it's the first 10 to 15 across the line, depending on which one it is. There are more points for the flatter stages, obviously, because those will favor the sprinters, but it's also the first across the finish line as well. So that is also a factor, because I can't think of a stage that hasn't finished in a sprint unless, if there's someone off the front, obviously, but everyone will try and push it at the end. So that is technically a sprint as well.
And then the white jersey. Now this is for riders that are under 26, so they have to be under 26. So people might be thinking, well, Egan Bernal, he was in the Tour last year, he won the yellow jersey, but he's still under 26. So
I know, I keep forgetting that too. I'm
yeah,
like, oh right,
he's only 23 years old. So by rights, he can wear that. Now that's a time. The white jersey is on time. It's not points like the sprint jersey is. So it's just on. It's similar to what the yellow jersey is. So it's done on time. And then the last jersey of significance is the polka dot jersey. What's it all about?
So polka dot, the climbing jersey, I think it's one of the most famous visually for even people that don't know cycling that much will know that polka dot jersey. They introduced that in the 30s. It's the king of the mountain will be able to wear this. So it is cumulative in the same way that all the other jerseys are. So it might not necessarily be the person that got the highest number of points on the race the day before, but they are the person that has the highest number of points overall throughout the race. And that's just at the top of each climb, not each climb, but the big climbs. Yeah. They allot a certain number of points, and the points are actually based on the categorization of the mountain. So some mountains are obviously less steep, less long, and those will have fewer points than the big ones where there are, high gradients, long climbs. Those are going to be the big mountain points. So those are the ones that the climbers target.
Yeah, so they number the climbs, like the lowest category climb is 4, then 3, then 2, 1, 1, and then what they call en français hors category or HC. Those are the over category climbs, the super severe ones. And as you had mentioned, Lily, the points are greater for, the longer, the tougher, the more, the lower the number. And the hors category climbs, of course, have the most. Then there's some other interesting prizing. We mentioned this before, and most likely Mark Hershey will be wearing the red bib number tomorrow. That's handed out to the most combative rider, or the rider that's been deemed by the judges in the race the most aggressive riding, on the stage. And certainly there's no question that Mark Hershey won that today, like in today's stage. And then there's the team competition as well. And the team competition is highly prized, I think, by the riders, because this really it's a team, it's a team event. I mean, the individuals get all the accolades and the awards, but it's a group of riders coming together, and working together to win, for their rider. And then sometimes, they take great pride in winning the team competition. So let's wrap up just talking about highs and lows of this first act, first chapter. Rest day tomorrow. They get to rest the legs. What's your highs and lows for this first chapter?
I mean, honestly, today was quite exciting. I would say this stage was, as all of them go, probably one of my favorites so far. Some lows, I guess, obviously there is the situation with Alaphilippe when he had that 20 seconds added on. That was pretty frustrating, but what can you do? Van Aert, just watching him, go from winning 2 stages already to just like working as a really good domestique today. That sort of thing. He just like showing his diversity so much. I'm such a fan. Yeah. Caleb Ewan taking that sprint, that just darting around everyone. That was really cool to watch.
Seemed like ages ago that was. There's been so much action. That seemed like it was last year.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, what else? There's Thibaut Pinot. That is just such a sad story. His injury, I think it was yesterday. I think that was probably just from the crash in the first stage, or maybe something recurring. They haven't really actually talked. The team isn't talking about it very much to the media. Yeah. But just watching the disappointment in his face every time the cameras go on him, because he just knows he's not going to be able to get back those minutes that he lost. That's been pretty heartbreaking. So yeah.
We kind of got the eye roll from him today. So he was going, "Oh my God! Like here the cameras are again." After I've losing more time.
It's like, yeah, and he's a very expressive face as well. Yes. So it really, really shows.
Well, my sort of high points are we knew this was going to be an extraordinary tour because it's just so unusual. I mean, they've had so little racing like in their legs. I mean, literally, it was a couple of weeks of racing. The Dauphiné for some of the stage riders, Milan San Remo and Strade Bianche for some of the the one-day specialists, and then that was it. And then bang, like right into the biggest race of the year. So we kind of knew that like it was going to be unusual, and even the normal is unusual. Like that stage 7, which should have been pretty much straightforward for the sprinters, just like blew me away in terms of how extraordinary it was, and it just made the normal kind of unnormal and the ordinary extraordinary. So that was one of my big takeaways. And then the young riders, and you mentioned one of them, Wout van Aert, Taj Pogacar, we've talked about him, Mark Hershey, Benoit Cosnefroy leading the polka dot jersey, and Nilson Powless, the young American. All these riders are 24 years of age and younger, and they've all ridden this first stage of the Tour de France, this first act and chapter, like real pros. I've been impressed by the fitness. I've been impressed by the how they've just been combative, and the sportsmanship, just truly, truly extraordinary. So I think we're kind of seeing a bit of a changing of the guard. Some of the old guard, kind of maybe on their way out, and young riders like Pogacar, Hershey, Cosnefroy, Van Aert, and Powless, the young American, potentially, riders of the future, if not sort of right now. So that's been one of my big sort of takeaways of this first act. So we turn ourselves to the next few stages, and as we mentioned, the next stage is completely flat. Lily, we'll take the rest day tomorrow. What are some of the teams and the riders going to be doing on a rest day? I mean, they're not going to sit around like all day with their feet up. They're going to have to do something. What do riders and teams typically do on the rest day?
So typically it's like a little ride, something that maybe theoretically we could probably keep up with if we were there. Nothing crazy, just trying to keep the legs moving, get a little bit of lactic acid. But generally speaking, it is a day where there's a lot of media and a lot of speaking with interviews or, sort of stuff like that. That's not going to be the case, obviously, with the required distancing. So it's going to not look exactly like it has all the other years, as none of these stages have. But, getting some time for themselves, maybe walking around in the city a little bit, we'll see. But again, they're trying to keep them as isolated as possible. So I'm not sure exactly how they're going to deal with that sort of day off in this situation.
I think staying in the bubble is what their own respective bubbles, the team bubbles, will be really important. There will be media commitments for some of the top riders and the jersey riders. Some teams do have their own sort of press conferences, and they'll invite members of the media. But everything, as you had mentioned, Lily, has to be sort of properly socially distanced, and there's protocol. I know there's a big round of tests. All the teams are going to have to go through COVID-19. Every staff member, the mechanics, the soigneurs, the director sportifs, everyone's undergoing testing tomorrow just to make sure. So, fingers crossed that everyone gets through, because I think the UCI and the ASO had deemed that if a team has 2 positive tests, that team will be out of the tour. So we do keep our fingers crossed that all the teams will be staying in.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a stressful situation with the fact that there were 9,000 confirmed cases in France on Friday, which is the highest they've had in total. So hopefully the fans can stay back a little bit and keep those riders safe.
Well, on that note, just going backwards a little bit, and I noticed it was an improvement today, but going up the Parasord, I don't know if you saw the finish on the stage yesterday, going up the final few switchbacks on the Parasord, I thought the fans were getting a little bit too close to the riders, and a number of riders did speak out overnight, and I thought the fans today were a little bit better behaved, on the side of the road. They were giving them a little bit more, the riders more distance. But the signs in France and in Spain right now are a bit ominous, and everyone is keeping their fingers crossed that we can make it all the way to Paris. It would be a great thing to do that. Lily, thank you very much for taking your time today to be on the Tour Today show with me. I really appreciate this.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
You've been watching the Tour Today show. My guest today has been Lily Hansen-Gillis, the web editor for Canadian Cycling Magazine. Don't forget, tomorrow is the rest day, and the Tour Today will also be taking a rest day. We'll be off tomorrow and back Tuesday. My guest on the next episode of the Tour Today, and it will be Tuesday next week, will be Gavin Brower, the co-founder and the CEO of Toronto-based bicycle manufacturer Kind Human Bicycles. I'm Steve Fleck. On behalf of the team at Endurance Zone TV, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all back on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for the Tour Today show.